Daylight savings, it's finally coming. Daylight savings, ah. And I am so excited because we are literally getting a foot of snow as I speak. So the sooner daylight savings gets here, the sooner spring gets here and all this snow crap melts. All right, if you've been around here at Slumber and Bloom for a while, then you know that as a sleep consultant, I am not anymore. I used to be, but I am not anymore the type to say that we need to be preparing for daylight savings in 15-minute increments for 2 weeks at a time and get your kid on the schedule. Like, we're not doing that. We're not worrying about the time shift for daylight savings as like this crazy wild, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be horrible. We're just not even going into it with that mentality. We're going into it as this is like literally not even a big deal. I have 5 tips for you today on how we can make the shift to daylight savings in the springtime easier on your baby and you. And don't worry about taking notes, because if you click the link in the description box down below, I have a whole guide written out for you, so it is all right there for you. Let's jump in to tip number 1. Instead of making little tiny baby shifts of 15 minutes every 2 or 3 days, we are shifting your child's schedule earlier by 30 minutes 1 week before daylight savings. That is the only major shift that we are doing before the time change. I always advise starting this shift at bedtime on Sunday night a week before the change. And then Monday morning, you're also going to wake up earlier by 30 minutes, napping 30 minutes earlier, going to bed 30 minutes earlier. If your child's bedtime is usually at 7:30 p.m., for 1 week, your child's bedtime is going to be 7 p.m. If they're waking up at 7:30 a.m., they're waking up at 7 a.m. If they're napping at 9:30 a.m., they are napping at 9 a.m., and so on and so forth. You're going to be on this schedule until daylight savings. When it is the day of daylight savings, you are going to be essentially pushing it another 30 minutes earlier. But by the time on the clock, it's going to be back to their normal time. And it is literally as easy as that. Tip number 2 is to keep your routines consistent. This is not a time to think about all the things that you can change in your bedtime routines. No, you need to keep your bedtime routine perfectly consistent and your nap time routines consistent as well. Tip number 3 is to mirror your okay to wait clock if you have a toddler with your changes to their schedule. So if your child's bedtime is usually 7:30 and you're changing it to 7 p.m., then if their okay to wait clock automatically turns on at bedtime, you need to make sure that you are making that change before it happens. The same thing applies for naps and morning wake up time. So if their okay to wake clock turns yellow at 7:30 a.m., you need to have it changed by 7 a.m. You can also add an alarm setting. So if your child is not used to waking up at 7 a.m., you can have an alarm go off so that they are waking up. Tip number 4 is to use natural light to your advantage. Now, because it is currently lighter in the morning, what you want to do is as soon as you get your child up in the morning, open all the blinds and get the natural daylight in your house. Your child's eyes need to be exposed to natural light so that their melatonin production is completely shut off and they are not producing any melatonin, no more sleepy hormones for the day. Now, on the contrary, at bedtime, it is starting to be brighter later, which we love. However, if your child is going to bed at 7:30 p.m., it is going to be lighter out than it has been the entire winter. So what you need to do is make sure that you are using your blackout curtains that you should already have. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I'm a diehard blackout curtain kind of girl. But you also need to be using these blackout curtains for naps as well. That is also a given that you should already be doing, but if you haven't been, now is a great time to start. You will notice that your child's sleep quality is so much better when they are sleeping in a pitch black room. I, for one, still need to sleep in a pitch black room. If you're using a nightlight, make sure it is a red light nightlight so that it is not stimulating their brain and dampening that melatonin production, because when our brain sees any kind of light other than red, it is waking up and alerting your melatonin production to stop. So let's just keep the nightlight on red. That tip about the blackout curtains was actually tip number 5. So that is everything that I have for you in today's video. Now, don't forget that I have a whole guide that is outlining all of these tips for you. You can get it in the description box down below. And don't forget to come follow me on Instagram at Slumber and Bloom. Come say hi, come say hey, tell me that you found me from my YouTube channel. I love to connect with anybody over on Instagram as well. So make sure that you're over there, and I will see you in the next video. Keep blooming. Mwah.